everyone, welcome to another Buddhist video. Today we're going to learn about the three marks of existence. It is also called Tilakkhana. It is the core teaching in Buddhism. It refers to three fundamental truths about life. So what are the fundamental truths? One is anicca or impermanence. Second is dukkha or suffering. And the last is non-self or anatta. The three marks of existence describe the true nature of ourselves and everything we experience. According to Buddhism, understanding that all phenomena have these three characteristics is vital step on the path to liberation from suffering. Now let's have a look at anicca. Everything in the world, whether living or non-living, is constantly changing. Nothing remains the same forever. The Buddha taught this concept as Sabbe Sankhara Anicca, meaning all things are impermanent. For example, as people grow older, their appearance changes. Hair turns grey, skin wrinkles, and the body becomes weaker. These changes are a natural part of life and highlight the fact that nothing in this world is permanent. The Buddha taught that we suffer more than we need to because we don't fully understand, both in our minds and through direct experience, that everything is always changing. We tend to hold on tightly to the things we enjoy, wanting them to stay the same. But because life is in constant motion, we can't freeze those pleasant experiences in time. On the flip side, we try to push away the unpleasant things, but they too will eventually pass, because nothing stays the same forever. Our inability to fully grasp this fact, along with our tendency to cling to what we like and reject what we don't, creates a lot of unnecessary suffering. Now, reflecting on impermanence through reading and thinking is important, but meditation really helps you feel this truth. In meditation, you can observe how everything around and within you is in constant flux. For example, a pain in your back might seem like it's just there, unchanging. But when you focus on it, you realize it's actually a series of shifting sensations. A troubling thought comes and goes. Even a pleasant feeling, like a cool breeze, can quickly turn into chilly discomfort. When we learn to accept that change is always happening, we start to suffer less because we no longer expect things to stay the same. Now, this is super valuable. Now, have a look at dukkha or suffering. These changes often lead to sorrow or suffering. The Buddha called this Sabbe Sankhara Dukkha, meaning all things involve suffering. When we experience aging, illness, or the loss of beauty and strength, it can cause sadness and discomfort. This suffering is a direct result of the impermanence of all things. Understanding that change is inevitable helps us come to terms with the difficulties we face in life. As Buddha explained, dukkha or suffering in the First Noble Truth, the Buddha taught that being human means we'll experience dukkha from the smallest discomforts to the deepest pain. But here's the important part. The Buddha's main goal was to help us end suffering. He said, I only teach one thing: suffering and the end of suffering. So, if life includes happiness and joy too, why focus so much on dukkha? Why make suffering the first noble truth instead of happiness? Shouldn't joy be just as important? Well, this emphasis on dukkha isn't about saying suffering is more real or fundamental than happiness. Instead, the Buddha was using dukkha as a teaching tool. He wanted to highlight just how much stress and dissatisfaction we go through, often without even realizing it, so that we can take action to change it. His teachings are really about freeing us from unnecessary suffering to create a lasting, deeper happiness. Now, the suffering the Buddha talks about isn't just a physical pain or sadness, it also includes the stress we feel when we cling to things that are always changing, or when we have a confused sense of who we really are. When we live on autopilot, reacting without thinking, and when we don't understand that life is always changing, or that we don't have a permanent self, we suffer more than we need to. The key takeaway is that dukkha isn't some permanent mark of existence, but it's a part of human experience when we don't fully understand life. The Buddha is giving us a way to break free from this cycle of suffering by shifting how we see ourselves and the world around us. Anatta, or non self, according to Buddhism, there is nothing everlasting or permanent in the world, including the concept of self or soul. The idea of I or self is simply a combination of the five elements known as the five aggregates, which is the body or form, feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. Buddha explained these in detail in the doctrine of Abhidhamma. These elements work together during life, but they do not stay together after death. They disintegrate. Buddhism teaches that there is no permanent self or soul, which challenges the belief in an eternal, unchanging identity. Because people often believe they have a substantial, unchanging self beyond these five components, they tend to over identify with their experiences. This attachment, along with the natural tendency to crave, leads to unnecessary suffering. For example, if someone feels sad or depressed, they may begin to believe, I am sad and depressed person, as though these emotions are a permanent part of who they are. This identification with the feelings actually strengthens the sadness, making it hard to overcome. To reduce this kind of suffering, it's important to loosen our grip on this process of over identification. Meditation helps us see that we don't have full control over our experience and that we are not separate from the world around us. Through meditation, we can learn to experience things as impersonal, recognizing that everything we go through is connected to a flow of causes and conditions. The belief that we have a self sufficient, substantive self feels natural to us for a couple of reasons. First, as living beings, we have a survival instinct that makes us feel like we own a distinct self. Second, our social conditioning, especially in individualistic societies, reinforces this idea that we are the center of our existence. Given how deeply ingrained these beliefs are, the Buddha's teaching that this sense of self leads to unnecessary suffering is hard to fully understand. However, you need to understand that Buddha's focus wasn't on defining what the self is or isn't, but rather on showing us how to use ideas of self and non self to move towards greater happiness and freedom from suffering. When a person understands these three marks of existence, they gain a clearer understanding of the true nature of the world and the universe. This understanding helps them to live a righteous and moral life, free from harmful actions. It is essential to grasp these characteristics, impermanence, suffering, and non self, to navigate life's challenges thoughtfully and meaningfully. For instance, when we face life's inevitable experiences like change, illness, death, or separation from loved ones, understanding these three marks of existence allows us to respond wisely and calmly. Knowing that everything changes, that suffering is part of life, and that there is no permanent self helps us to act with intelligence and compassion in difficult situations. This deeper understanding enriches our daily lives, guiding us to live with purpose and insight. Thank you for watching this video. I hope this explanation helped make things clearer. If you have any thoughts or questions, leave them in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching. Till we meet from another video, I wish you a blissful day. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.